Hi everybody, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect the dot, an epiphany, a mind-blown moment, a new book to read, new author to explore, oracle card spreads, artwork to view, all the links for that will be at the bottom of this video in the description. And if you want to check out Valentine's Day stuff, this is pretty thick. I do a lot of pyramids and other work that's behind me. Go check out my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com. That helps me continue feeding myself and getting my work done. So, The Secret Teachers of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. I'm going to read a section today, but I'm going to do this at the beginning of some of the book's videos. So those of you who are new to my channel, I'm dyslexic, organizational dyslexic at best, but I have problems. I'm a real redneck. I was born in Albany, Georgia. My teeth pull out due to a lot of medical stuff that I had when I was young. My projection of words is not going to be correct, and it frustrates the living daylights out of me, but I do the best that I can. I'm doing these readings for people who don't have time to, who can't read, who don't have access to things. And this is a purpose of my channel because I do put my spiritual insights in a lot of these books. So if you can't handle the frustration, if it triggers you, maybe that's something you need to heal, and you can't give compassion and grace, then this is not the reading for you. Just putting that out there for anybody who would like to attempt to bully or say negative comments. I'm all about the high vibes and the light. You can have your opinion, but if it has anything without constructive criticism of how I can help myself be better in a nice, constructive way, then it will get deleted, and stop wasting your energy on stuff like that. The Theory and Practice of Alchemy. And I can't wait to read these sections only because I've been talking about alchemy and transmutation of emotional states and positive and negative polarities in a lot of my videos. And for some people, they need the background to alchemy to understand a little further. So I know Manly does this very well. And there are books in here that will trigger people. Remember, it's God only experiencing itself. Don't take life so seriously. Alchemy, the secret art of the land of Chem, is one of the two oldest sciences known to the world. The other is astrology. The beginnings of both extend back into the obscurity of prehistoric times. According to the earliest records, extant alchemy and astrology were considered as divinely revealed to man, so that by their aid, he might regain his lost estate. According to the old legends preserved by the rabbis, the angel at the gate of Eden instructed Adam in the mysteries of the Kabbalah and of alchemy, promising that when the human race had thoroughly mastered the secret wisdom concealed within these inspired arts, the curse of the forbidden fruit would be removed and man might again enter into the garden of the Lord. As man took upon himself coats of skins, physical bodies, at the time of his fall, I say that all the time. So these sacred sciences were brought by him into the lower worlds, incarnated in dense vehicles, through which their spiritual transcendental natures could no longer manifest themselves, therefore they were considered as being dead or lost. The earthly body of alchemy is chemistry, for chemists do not realize that half of the book of Torah is forever concealed behind the veil of Isis, see the tarot, and that so long as they study only material elements, they can be best discovered by half of the mystery astrology has crystallized into astronomy, whose vortices ridicule the dreams of ancient seers and sages, deriding their symbols as meaningless products of superstition. Nevertheless, the intelligentsia of the modern world can never pass behind the veil which divides the seen from the unseen, except in the way appointed the mysteries. What is life? What is intelligence? What is force? These are the problems to the solutions of which the ancients consecrated their temples of learning. Who shall say that they did not answer those questions? Who would recognize the answers if given? Is it possible that under the symbols of alchemy and astrology lies concealed a wisdom so abstruse that the mind of this race is not qualified to conceive its principles? And then I thought it would be fun to read. This is some, I know you can't really see so well, but I'm going to read. The Leaves of Hermes, Sacred Tree. In his Key to Alchemy, Samuel Norton divides into 14 parts the process or states through which the alchemical substances pass from the time they are first placed in the test tube until ready as medicine for plants, minerals, or men. 1. Solution, the act of passing from a gaseous or solid condition into one of liquidity. Filtration, the mechanical separation of liquid from the undissolved particles suspended in it. Evaporation, the changing or converting from a liquid or solid state into a vaporous state with the aid of heat. Distillation, an operation by which a volatile liquid may be separated from the substance which it holds in solution. Separation, the operation of disuniting or decomposing substances. Rectification, the process of refining or purifying any substance by repeated distillation. Calcination, the conversion into a powder or calx by the action of heat, expulsion of the volatile substance from a matter. Commixation, the blending of different ingredients into one compound or mass. Purification, disintegration by spontaneous decomposition, decay by artificial means. Inhabitation, the process of holding back or restraining. Fermentation, the conversion of organic substances into new compounds in the presence of a ferment. Fixation, the act or process of ceasing to be a liquid and becoming firm, state of being fixed. Multiplication, the act or process of multiplying or increasing in number, the state of being multiplied. Projection, the process of turning the base metals into gold. Wowee. The Chaldeans, Phoenicians, and the Babylonians were familiar with the principles of alchemy, as were many early Oriental races. It was practiced in Greece and Rome, was the master science of the Egyptians. Chem was an ancient name for the land of Egypt, and both the words alchemy and chemistry are perpetual reminder of the priority of Egypt's scientific knowledge. According to the fragmentary writings of those early peoples, alchemy was to them no speculative art. They implicitly believed in the multiplication of metals, and in the face of their reiterations, both the scholar and the materialist should be more kindly in their consideration of alchemist theorems. Evolutionists trace the unfoldment of the arts and sciences up through the growing intelligence of the prehistoric man, while others of a transcendental point of view like to consider them as being direct revelations from God. Many interested solutions to the riddle of alchemy's origin have been advanced. One is that alchemy was revealed to man by the mysterious Egyptian demigod, Hermes Trismegistus, this sublime figure looming through the mists of time and bearing in his hand the immortal emerald, is credited by the Egyptians as being the author of all the arts and sciences. In honor of him, all scientific knowledge was gathered under the general title of the Hermetic arts. When the body of Hermes was interred in the valley of Hebron, the divine emerald was buried with it. Many centuries afterward, the emerald was discovered, according to one vision by an Arabian initiate, according to another by Alexander the Great, king of Macedon, by means of the power of the emerald, upon which were the mysteries inscriptions of the thrice great Hermes. 13 sentences in all. Alexander conquered all the then known world. Not having conquered himself, however, he ultimately failed. Regardless of his glory and power, the prophecies of talking trees were fulfilled, and Alexander was cut down in the midst of his triumph. There are persistent rumors to the effect that Alexander was an initiate of a high order who failed because of his inability to withstand the temptations of power. E. Y. Keneally, quoted from the Cosmodordium of Dr. Goblin Persona, describes the incident of Alexander and the talking trees, into the presence of which the king of Macedon is said to have been brought while on his campaign in India. And now Alexander marched into the quarters equally dangerous, at one time over the tops of mountains, at another through dark valleys, in which his army was attacked by serpents and wild beasts, until after 300 days he came into a most pleasant mountain, on whose sides hung chains or ropes of gold. This mountain had 2,050 steps, all of purest sapphire, by which one could ascend to the summit, and near this Alexander encamped. And on a day Alexander was with his 12 princes, ascended by the aforenamed steps to the top of the mountain, and found there a palace marvelously beautiful, having 12 gates and 70 windows of the purest gold, and it was called the Palace of the Sun. And there was in it a temple of all gold, before whose gates were vine trees bearing branches of carbuncles and pears. I totally messed that name up. And Alexander and his princes, having entered the palace, found there a man lying on a golden bedstead. He was very stately and beautiful in appearance, and his head and beard were white as snow. Then Alexander and his prince bent the knee to the sage, who spoke thus: Alexander, thou shalt now see what no earthly man has ever before seen or heard. To whom Alexander made answer, O sage, most happy, how dost thou know me? He replied, before the wave of the deluge covered the face of the earth, I knew thy works. He added, wouldest thou behold the most hollow trees of the sun and moon, which announce all future things? Alexander made answer, it is well, my lord, greatly do we long to see them. Then the sage said, put away your rings and ornaments, and take off your shoes and follow me. And Alexander did so, and choosing out 3 from the princes and leaving the rest to await his return, he followed the sage and came to the trees of the sun and moon. The tree of the sun has leaves of red gold. The tree of the moon has leaves of silver, and they are very great. And Alexander, at the suggestion of the sage, questioned the trees, asking if he should return to triumph to Macedon, to which the tree gave answer, no, but that he should live yet another year and 8 months, after which he should die by a poisoned cup. And when he inquired who was he who should give him that poison, he received no reply. And the tree of the moon said to him that his mother, after a most shameful and unhappy death, should lie long unburied, but that happiness was in store for his sisters. See the book of Enoch, second messenger of God. In all probability, the so-called talking trees were merely strips of wood with tables of letters upon them, by meanings of which oracles were invoked. At one time, books written upon wood were called talking trees. The difficulty in deciding the origin of alchemy is directly due to ignoring the lost continent of Atlantis. The great Archaeum was the most prized of the secrets of the Atlantean priestcraft. When the land of Atlas sank, hierophants of the fire mystery brought the formula to Egypt, where it remained for centuries in the possession of the sages and philosophers. It gradually moved into Europe, where its secrets are still preserved intact. Those disagreeing with the legend of Hermes and his emerald tablet see in the 200 angels who descended upon the mountains, as described by the prophet Enoch, the first instructors in the alchemical art. Regardless of its originator, it was left to the Egyptian priests to preserve alchemy for the modern world. Egypt, because of the color of its earth, was called the Black Empire, and it is referred to in the Old Testament as the land of darkness. By reason of its possible origin there, alchemy has long been known as the black art. Not in the sense of evil, but in the sense of that darkness which has always enshrouded its secret process. During the Middle Ages, alchemy was not only a philosophy and a science, but also a religion. Those who rebelled against the religious limitations of their day concealed their philosophic teachings under the allegory of gold making. In this way, they preserved their personal liberty and were ridiculed rather than persecuted. Alchemy is a threefold art, its mystery well symbolized by a triangle. Its symbol is 3 times 3, 3 elements, 3 processes in 3 worlds or spheres. The 3 times 3 is part of the mystery of the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, for 33 is 3 times 3, which is 9, the number of esoteric man, and the number of emanations from the root of the divine tree. It is the number of the worlds nourished by the 4 rivers that pour out of the divine mouth as the verbum fiat. Beneath the so-called symbolism of alchemy is concealed a magnificent concept. For this ridiculed and despised craft still preserves intact the triple key to the gates of eternal life. Realizing, therefore, that alchemy is a mystery in 3 worlds, the divine, the human, and the elemental, it can easily be appreciated why the sages and philosophers created and involved an intricate allegory to reveal their wisdom. Alchemy is a science of multiplication and is based upon the natural phenomena of growth. Nothing from nothing comes. It is extremely ancient adage. Alchemy is not the process of making something from nothing. It is the process of increasing and improving that which already exists. If a philosopher were to state that a living man could be made from a stone, the unenlightened would probably exclaim, impossible. Thus would they reveal their ignorance, for to the wise it is known that in every stone is the seed of man. A philosopher might declare that a universe could be made out of a man, but the foolish would regard this as an impossibility, not realizing that a man is a seed from which a universe may be brought forth. God is the within and the without of all things. The Supreme One manifests himself through growth, which is an urge from within outward, a struggle for expression and manifestation. There is no greater miracle in the growing and multiplication of gold by the alchemist than in any tiny mustard seed producing a bush many thousands of times the size of the seed. If a mustard seed produces 100,000 times its own size and weight, when planted in an entirely different substance, the earth, why should not the seed of gold be multiplied 100,000 times by the art when the seed is planted in its earth, the base metals, and nourished artificially by the secret process of alchemy? Alchemy teaches that God is in everything, that he is one universal spirit manifesting through an infinity of forms. I say this all day long. God, therefore, is the spiritual seed planted in the dark earth, the material universe. By art, it is possible so to grow and expand the seed that the entire universe of substance is tinctured thereby and becomes like unto the seed, pure gold. In the spiritual nature of man, this is termed regeneration. In the material body of the elements, it is called transmutation. As it is in the spiritual and material universes, so it is in the intellectual world. I have a hair or something itching my nose. Wisdom cannot be imparted to an idiot because the seed of wisdom is not within him, but the wisdom may be imparted to the ignorant person, however ignorant he may be, because the seed of wisdom exists in him and can be developed by art and culture. Hence, a philosopher is only an ignorant man within whose nature a projection has taken place. They say that God is in everything and within us all day long. Through art, the process of learning, the whole mass of base metals, the mental body of ignorance, was transmuted into pure gold wisdom, for it was tinctured with understanding. If then through fail and proximity to God, the consciousness of man may be transmuted from base animal desires, represented by the masses of the planetary metals, into a pure golden and godly consciousness, illumined and redeemed, and the manifesting God within, that one increase from a tiny spark to a great and glorious being. If also the base metals of mental ignorance can, through proper endeavor and training, be transmuted into transcended genius and wisdom, why is the process in two worlds or spheres of application not equally true in the third? If both the spiritual and mental elements of the universe can be multiplied in their expressions, then by the law of analogy, the material elements of the universe can also be multiplied if the necessary processes can be ascertained. That which is true in the superior is true in the inferior. If alchemy be a great spiritual fact, then it is also a great material fact. If it can take place in the universe, it can take place in man. If it could take place in man, it could take place in the plants and minerals. If one thing in the universe grows, then everything in the universe grows. If one thing can be multiplied, then all things can be multiplied. For the superior agrees with the inferior, and the inferior agrees with the superior. But as the way for the redemption of the soul is concealed by the mysteries, so the secrets for the redemption of the metals are also concealed, that they may not fall into the hands of the profane and thereby become perverted. If any would grow metals, he must first learn the secrets of metals. He must realize that all metals, like all stones, plants, animals, and universes, grow from seeds, and that these seeds are already in the body of substance, the womb of the world virgin. For the seed of man is the universe before he is born or grows. And as the seed of the plant exists for all time, though the plant live but a part of that time, so the seeds of spiritual gold and material gold are ever present in all things. The metals grow throughout the ages because life is imparted to them from the sun. They grow imperceptibly in form like tiny shrubs, for everything grows in some way. Only the methods of growth differ according to the kind of magnitude. One of the great axioms is, within everything is the seed of everything. Although by the simple process of nature, it may remain latent for many centuries, or its growth may be exceedingly slow. Therefore, every grain of sand contains not only the seed of the precious metals, as well as the seed of the priceless gems, but also the seeds of sun, moon, and the stars. As within the nature of man is reflected the entire universe's miniature, so in each grain of sand, each drop of water, each tiny particle of cosmic dust are concealed all the parts and the elements of cosmos in the form of tiny seed germs, so minute that even the most powerful microscope cannot detect them. Trillions of times smaller than the ion or electron, these seeds, unrecognizable and incomprehensible, await the time assigned them for growth and expression. Consider the monads of Leibniz. There are two methods whereby growth may be accomplished. The first is by nature, for nature is an alchemist, forever achieving the apparently impossible. The second is by art, and through art is produced in a comparatively short time that which requires nature almost endless periods of duplicate. The true philosopher, desiring to accomplish the magnum opus, patterns his conduct according to the laws of nature, recognizing that art of alchemy is merely a method of copied from the nature, but with the aid of certain secret formulae, greatly shortened by being correspondingly intensified. Nature, in order to achieve her miracles, must work through either extensiveness or intensiveness. The extensive processes of nature are such as are used in the transmutation of the pitch of black carbon into diamonds, requiring millions of years of natural hardening. The intensive process is art, which is ever the faithful servant of nature, supplementing her every step and cooperating with her in every way. So in this philosophical work, nature and art ought to so lovingly to embrace each other, as that art may not require that nature denies, nor nature deny what may be preferred by art. For nature assisting, sorry guys, I can't see. Assenting, she demeans herself obediently to every artist, while by their industry she is helped, not hindered. By means of this art, the seed which is within the soul of a stone may be made to germinate so intensively that in a few moments a diamond is grown from the seed of itself. If the seed of the diamond were not in the marble, granite, and sand, a diamond could not be grown therefrom. But as the seed is within all things, a diamond may be grown out of any other substance in the universe. In some substances, however, it is easier to perform this miracle because in them these germs have already been long fertilized and are thus more nearly prepared for the vivifying process of the art. Likewise, to teach some men wisdom is easier than to teach others, for some already have a foundation upon which to work, while in others the thinking faculties are entirely dormant. Alchemy, therefore, should be regarded as the art of increasing and bringing into perfect flower with the greatest possible expedition. Nature may accomplish her desired end, or because of the destructiveness exercised by one element over another, she may not, but with the aid of the true art, nature always accomplishes her end. For this art is not subject either to the wastings of time or to the vandalism of elemental reactions. In his History of Chemistry, James Campbell Brown, late professor of chemistry in the University of Liverpool, sums up the ends which alchemists sought to achieve in the following paragraphs. Quote, "This, therefore, was the general aim of the alchemist, to carry out the laboratory as far as possible, the process which nature carried out in the interior of the earth. 7 leading problems occupied their attention. 1. The preparation of a compound named elixir, magisterium, medicine, or philosopher's stone, which possessed the property of transmutating the baser metals into gold and silver, and performing many other marvelous operations. 2. The creation of homunculi, or living beings, of which many wonderful but incredible tales are told. 3. The preparation of the alkist, or universal solvent, which dissolved every substance which was immersed in it. Palingenesis, or the restoration of a plant from its ashes. Had they succeeded in this, they would have hoped to be able to raise the dead. 5. The preparation of spiritus mundi, a mystical substance possessing many powers, the principle of which was its capacity of dissolving gold. The extraction of the quintessence, or active principles of all substances. 7. The preparation of aureum portable, or liquid gold, a sovereign remedy, because gold, being itself perfect, could produce perfection in the human frame. Very interesting there. I'm sorry for the mispronunciations. Alchemical symbolism. In alchemy, there are 3 symbolic substances: mercury, sulfur, and salt. To these was added a fourth mysterious life principle called Azoth. Concerning the first three, Herr von Welling has written, quote, there are three basic chemical substances which are called by the philosophers salt, sulfur, and mercury, but which are not to be confounded in any way with the crude salt, sulfur, and mercury taken from the earth or secured from the apothecary. Salt, sulfur, and mercury each has a triune nature, for each of these substances contains in reality also the other two substances, according to the secret archaeum of the wise. The body of salt is therefore threefold, namely salt, sulfur, and mercury. But in the body of salt, one of the three salt predominates. Mercury is likewise composed of salt, sulfur, and mercury, with the later element predominating. Sulfur, similarly, is actually salt, sulfur, and mercury, with sulfur predominating. These 9 divisions, 3 times 3 plus Azoth, the mysterious universal life force, equals 10, the sacred dicad of Pythagoras. Concerning the nature of Azoth, there is much controversy. Some view it as an invisible eternal fire, others as electricity, still others as magnetism. Transcendentalists refer to it as the astral light. The universe is surrounded by the sphere of the stars. Beyond the sphere is the sphere of Shamayim. Don't know what that is. Which is a divine fiery water, the first outflow of the word of God, the flaming river pouring from the presence of the eternal. Shamayim, the fiery androgynous water, divides the fire, becomes the solar fire, and the water becomes a lunar water. Shush. Hang on, this is going to bother me because it's in here a lot. Shemayim. That's in, it's Hebrew. Shemayim is a universal mercury, sometimes called Azoth, the measureless spirit of life. The spiritual fury, original water, Shemayim, comes through Eden in Hebrew vapor and pours itself into 4 main rivers, the elements. This is the river of living water, Azoth, the fiery mercurial essence. This flows out from the throne of God and the Lamb, and this Eden vaporous essence or mist is the spiritual earth, incomprehensible and intangible, or the dust, afar, out of which God formed Adam, Min, Hadayim, the spiritual body of man, which body must sometime become revealed. In another part of his workings, von Welling also says that there was no material universe until Lucifer, attempting to perform the cosmic alchemy, misused the Shemayim, or the divine fire, in order to reestablish the Shemayim, which Lucifer had perverted. This universe was formed as a means of liberating it from the dark cloud within which it was locked by the failure of Lucifer's attempt to control it. These statements clearly emphasize that the fact that the early philosophers recognized in the Bible a book of chemical and alchemical formula. It is essential that this point be kept in mind at all times. Woe to that seeker who attempts as literal the rambling allegories of the alchemists. Such a one can never enter the inner sanctuary of truth. Elias Ashmole, in his Theoretum Chemicum Britannicum, thus describes the methods employed by the alchemists to conceal their true doctrines. Their chief this study was to warp up their secrets in fables and spin out their fancies in vials and shadows, whose radii seems to extend every way, yet so they meet in a common center and point only one thing. The fact that the scriptures reveal a hidden knowledge is considered allegorically, is clearly demonstrated by parable describing King Solomon, his wives, concubines, and virgins, which parable occurs in something with German, published in Altona in 1785. Dr. Hartman, who translated part of this work into English, declared that the wives of Solomon represented the arts, the concubines the science, and the virgins the still unrevealed secrets of nature. By order of the king, the virgins were forced to remove their veils, thus signifying that by means of wisdom, Solomon, the mystic arts, were forced to disclose their hidden parts to the philosopher, while to the uninitiated world only the outside garments were visible. Such is the mystery of the veil of Isis. As the chemist must do his work in 4 worlds simultaneously if he would achieve the magnum opus, a table showing the analogies of the 3 principles in the 4 worlds may clarify the relationship with the various parts bear to each other. The early masters of the art of alchemical symbolism did not standardize either their symbols or their terms. Thus, it requires great familiarity with the subject combined with the considerable intuitive power to unravel some of their enigmatical statements. The 3rd and 4th divisions of the following table are given alternative reverings, owing to the fact that some authors did not draw a clear line between spirit and soul. According to the scriptures, spirit is indestructible, but soul is destructible. Obviously, then, there are no synonymous. It is clearly stated that the soul that sinneth, it shall die, but the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. The table of analogies are nearly as they can be established, is as follows. And I'm just going to put this up here like that. Pause if you want to see it. The triune powers in 4 worlds, the world of Father, Son, and Mother, God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, man, spirit, soul, body, elements, air, fire, water, chemicals, mercury, sulfur, salt. The alternative renderings of 3 and 4 are worlds of Father, Mother, Father, Son, Mother, elements, fire, air, water, chemicals, sulfur, mercury, salt. Parsilius made a different arrangement and somewhat Aristotelian in which the 3 phases of triune God are omitted, combining only the elements of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th worlds. World of Father, Son, Mother, man, spirit, soul, body, elements, air, water, earth, chemicals, sulfur, mercury, salt. And the main point, however, is prove the alchemical philosophers use the symbols of salt, sulfur, and mercury to represent not only chemicals, but the spiritual and invisible principles of God, man, and the universe. The 3 substances, salt, sulfur, and mercury, existing in 4 worlds, as shown in the table, sum up the sacred number 12, as 12 are the foundation of the great work. They are called the revelation, the 12 foundation stones of the sacred city. In line with the same idea, Pythagoras asserted that the dodecahedron, or 12-phase symmetrical geometric solid, was the foundation of the universe. May there not be a relation also between the mysterious 3 and 4 and the 4 parties of 3, which in the legend of the 3rd degree of Masonry go forth to the 4th angles of the cherubim, the composite creature of 4 parts. The following table shows the angels to which the parties of 3, salt, sulfur, and mercury, go in each harem. The 4 corners of creation, east, south, west, north. The fixed signs of the zodiac, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus. The parts of the cherubim, man, lion, eagle, bull. The 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter. The ages of man, childhood, youth, maturity, age. The stages of existence, birth, growth, maturity, decay. The parts of man's constitution, spirit, soul, mind, body. The 4 elements, air, fire, water, earth. One more table should prove of the interest to Masonic scholars when showing the relationship existing between 3 substances, salt, sulfur, and mercury, in certain symbols with the Masons are familiar. This table also has an alternative rendering based on the interblending of philosophic principles, which are difficult, if not impossible, to separate into chronological order. 1, the 3 lights, stellar fire, solar fire, lunar fire. 2, the 3 grand masters, harem, Solomon, harem of tree. 3, the geometric solid, sphere, pyramid, cube. The alchemical substances, mercury, sulfur, salt. The alternative rendering of number 2 is the 3 grand masters, Solomon, harem, harem of tree, or tray. In alchemy is found again the perpetuation of the universal mystery. For as surely as Jesus died upon the cross, harem, at the west gate of the temple, Orpheus on the banks of the river Hebros, Christina on the banks of the Ganges, and Osiris in the coffin prepared by Typhon. So in alchemy, unless the elements first die, the great work cannot be achieved. The stages of the alchemical process can be traced in the lives and activities of nearly all the world's saviors and teachers, and also among the mythologies of several nations. It is said in the Bible that except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God. In alchemy, it is declared that without Hang on, I got another word I'm stuck on. Without putrefaction, it's not spelled how it sounds. The great work cannot be accomplished. What is it that dies on the cross is buried in the tomb of the mysteries, and that dies also in the retort and becomes black with
putrefaction.
Putrefaction. Oh man, the great work cannot be accomplished. What is, sorry guys, I just lost my place. Also, what is that does the same thing in nature of man, that he may rise again, phoenix-like from his own ashes. The solution in the alchemical retort, if digested a certain length of time, will turn into a red elixir, which is called the universal medicine. It resembles a fiery water and a luminous in the dark. During the process of digestion, it passes through many colors, which has given rise to the being called the peacock, because of its iridescence during one of the periods of its digestion. It is the augmentations of its power be carried too far. The test tube containing the substance will explode and vanish as dust. This commonly occurs and is the great danger involved in the preparation of the medicine for men and metals. If developed too far, it will also seep through the glass, for there is no physical container sufficiently strong enough to hold it. The reason for this is that it is no longer a substance, but a divine essence partaking of the interpenetrative power of divinity. When it is properly developed, this universal solvent in liquid form will dissolve into itself all other metals. In this high state, this universal salt is a liquid fire. This salt dissolved with the proper amount of any metal and run through the different stages of digestion and rotations of augmentations will eventually become a medicine for the transmutating of inferior metals. The True Way of Nature by Hermes Trismegistus, given out by a genuine Freemason, ICH, describes the danger of over-augmentating the universal salt, but this multiplication cannot be carried on ad infinitum, but it attains completeness in the 9th rotation. For when this tincture has been rotated 9 times, it cannot be exalted any further because it will not permit any further separation. For as soon as it perceives only the smallest degree of material fire, it goes instantly into a flux and passes through the glass like hot oil through paper. In classifying the process through which the chemical elements must pass before the hermetic medicine is produced, lack of uniformity in terminology is evidence. For in the True Way of Nature, 7 stages are given, while in the dictionary Mythio-Hermetic, 12 are noted. These 12 are linked with the signs of the zodiac in a matter of worthy consideration. Aries, calcination. Taurus, congelation. Gemini, fixation. Cancer, dissolution. Leo, digestion. Virgo, distillation. Libra, sublimation. Scorpio, separation. Sagittarius, incineration. Capricorn, fermentation. Aquarius, multiplication. Pisces, projection. This arrangement opens an interesting field of speculation, which may be of great service if intelligently carried out. These 12 steps leading up to the accomplishment of the magnum opus are a reminder of the 12 degrees of the ancient Rosicrucian mysteries. To a certain degree, Rosicrucianism was chemistry theology. I'm not going to get that one either. Hang on. Theologized and alchemy philosophized. According to the mysteries, man was redeemed as a result of his passage and rotation through the 12 mansions of the heavens. The 12 processes by means of which the secret essence may be discovered remind the student forcibly of the 12 fellow craftsmen who are sent forth in search of the murdered builder of the universe, the universal Mercury. According to Solomon Trismosian, the stages through which matter passes in its journey towards perfection are divided into 12 parts, each of which is represented by an appropriate drawing. There is an important connection between the 22 emblems of Trismosian, the 22 major cards of the tarot, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. These mysterious tarot cards are themselves an alchemical formula if properly interpreted, as if to substantiate the claims of medieval philosophers that King Solomon was a master of alchemy. Dr. Franz Hartmann has noted that the much abused and misunderstood Song of Solomon is in reality an alchemical formula. The student of natural philosophy will immediately recognize the dark maid of Jerusalem, not as a person, but as a material sacred to the sages. Dr. Hartmann writes, the Song of Solomon in the Old Testament is a description of the process of alchemy. In this song, the subjectum is described in Cant 5, the Lilium Artius. Okay, it's all Latin and I'm not reading it, but it's the whole list I was reading before. A tiny particle of the philosopher's stone, if cast upon the surface of water, will, according to an appendix to the work on the universal salt by Heron von Welling, immediately being a process of recapitulating in miniature the history of the universe, for instantly the tincture, like the spirits of Elohim, moves upon the face of the waters. A miniature universe is formed, which the philosophers have affirmed actually rises out of the water and floats in the air, where it passes through all the stages of cosmic unfoldment and finally disintegrates into dust again. Not only is it possible to prepare a medicine from metals, it is also possible to prepare a tincture from minerals by means of which pieces of granite and marble can be turned into precious stones. Also, stones of inferior quality may be improved. As one of the great alchemists fittingly observed, man's quest for gold is often his undoing, for he mistakes the alchemical process, believing them to be purely material. He does not realize that the philosopher's gold, the philosopher's stone, and the philosopher's medicine exist in each of the four worlds, and that the consummation of the experiment cannot be realized until it is successfully carried on in four worlds simultaneously, according to one formula. Furthermore, one of the constituents of the alchemical formula exists only within the nature of man himself, without which his chemical will not combine, and though he spent his whole life and fortune in chemical experimentation, he will not produce the desired end. The paramount reason why the material scientist is incapable of duplicating the achievements of the medieval alchemists, although he follow every step carefully and accurately, is that the subtle element which comes out of the nature of the illumined and regenerated alchemical philosopher is missing in his experimentation. On this subject, Dr. Franz Hartmann, in a footnote in his translation of extracts from Persilius, clearly expresses that the conclusions of a modern investigator of alchemical lore. I wish to warn the reader who might be inclined to try any of the alchemical prescriptions not to do so unless he is an alchemist, because although I know from personal experience that these prescriptions are not only allegorical, but literal, true, and will prove successful in the hands of an alchemist, they would only cause a waste of time and money in the hands of one who has not the necessary qualifications. A person who wants to be an alchemist must have in himself the magnesia, which means the magnetic power to attract and coagulate in invisible astral elements. In considering the formulae on the following pages, it must be recognized that the experiments cannot be successfully conducted unless the one who performs them be himself a magus. If two persons, one an initiate and the other unilluminated in the supreme art, were to set to work and side by side using the same vessels, the same substances, and exactly the same modus operandi, the initiate would produce his gold and the uninitiated would not. Unless the greater alchemy has first taken place within the soul of man, he cannot perform the lesser alchemy in the retort. This is an invariable rule, although it is cunningly hidden in the allegories and emblems of Hermetic philosophy. Unless a man be born again, he cannot accomplish the great work. And if a student of alchemical formula will remember this, it will save him much sorrow and disappointment. To speak of that part of the mystery which is concerned with the secret life principle within an actual nature of man is forbidden, for it is decreed by the masters of the art that each shall discover that for himself on this subject. It is unlawful to speak at greater length. And that, my friends, ends part 1 of the theory and practice of alchemy. There's a lot in here that I resonate with, I align with, that I speak free-flowing out, and it's interesting stuff. And I transmute negative energy. I try to be as much as an alchemist as I can, though, on the mental plane. And we're going to find out about what other substances make soon. Who knows? But a lot is being unfolded in this book, and especially the alchemy part. A lot of people have died struggling to get the essence, which in other books, Manly P. Hole says it's all within. It's just the understanding and coming to a realization of such. So guys, sending you all love, light, protection, shielding, compassion, and grace energy. Please be safe, be seen this weekend. Please stay warm. I got my space heater. I'm so excited. I get to be warm when I read. Please check out my website. Please, if you can support, that'd be great. A like is just as good as anything else that you can do for me. So I want to thank everybody. I hope that a lot of pausing happened. Heat and no dehumidifier is a little rough. I hope to see you guys on the next one. Please be safe, be seen. Bye.